Welcome back, or welcome, to the Spirituality with Ashley podcast, where I will be your host. I'm Ashley. Nice to meet you. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. I got this intuitive hit last night to do a podcast about psychic readings. I'm a professional psychic reader. I predominantly do Akashic Records readings and psychic readings. I do a couple of other kinds of readings, and you can see those on my website. If you're interested, I'll put my website in the show notes. And anyway, so last night, I suddenly was just like, oh my gosh, I need to do a podcast episode about this and explain. I wanted to talk about like how psychic readings work, explain how I do my readings and kind of what to expect, because every psychic is different. Like even if you have similar skills, abilities, gifts, whatever you want to call them, everybody has different energy, and those things manifest differently for different people. So I wanted to talk about my particular skills, how they manifest, what it looks like, what it feels like, how the whole deal works. And this was not on my lineup. I was actually supposed to do another podcast, but we like to listen to our intuitive hits around here. It took me a while to learn to trust myself, and I'm noticing that the more that I actually listen, tap into what I'm feeling, pay attention to my intuition, that things tend to just go more smoothly. Like it's easier to make the choice that feels good and that leads me in the right direction when I'm paying attention to my intuition. So we're listening to our intuition here, and we're doing this podcast. So I'm going to also talk about some misconceptions about psychic readings, and I have my notes in front of me because I don't want to ramble. We're going to get into how to tap into energy fields, what that kind of looks and feels like, and we're going to discuss a little bit about how to connect with the energy of other people, explore some ethical considerations and boundaries, because that is an important part of psychic sessions and just, being extra sensitive. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some experiences, and yeah, I think that'll pretty much round it out. All right. So I'm actually going to start this off a little differently. I recorded a psychic session that I did with someone, and I don't normally record my psychic sessions. I will normally record the Akashic Records readings. They get really deep. I think it's important to be able to go back and watch those, because you get more out of them as you watch them, because it's so much information. And honestly, I think all my readings are a lot of information. And I recorded this session just for the purposes of being able to kind of share what it looks like, what the process looks like, what happens during one of these sessions. And I don't ever watch recordings after I do them. So like when I'm recording an Akashic Records reading session, I send the person the reading afterward. And then I don't ever look at it. And I forget. I forget what happens during sessions because I'm channeling and I'm not really fully aware of what's happening. I'm just bringing in information and interpreting it like a radio. So it was actually kind of cool to watch the psychic session that I recorded, because I was like, oh my God, what? I think I talked for like 20 minutes straight. It was a 30-minute session, or it actually lasted for 45 minutes, but I talked so much And it was just cool for me to watch it because I don't ever get to see that. I don't really get to experience it because, like I said, when I'm channeling, it's almost like I'm not really there. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit too later. And it was such an interesting thing to watch happen because I've never been on the other side of me doing a reading for someone. I've gotten psychic readings, and so I do know what it's like to be on the client side of it and kind of just like be getting flooded with all that information, like a freaking fireman's water hose thing, like just inundated with all this information, so much. And so it can honestly be really helpful to take notes or record when you're getting a session for that reason, because it is just so much. So I wanted to talk about this whole experience because I was like, that's actually kind of cool. All right. So I didn't bring water with me, which is ridiculous because I know that I'm going to need water. So I'm going to grab my glass of water. Just going to bring you guys with me. Go ahead and take this opportunity to grab a drink. If you're just hanging out, I tend to listen to podcasts when I'm driving or walking. Sometimes I listen to them while I'm working out. So that wouldn't be an appropriate suggestion for me to grab a glass of something, like grab some tea. But if you are just chilling, grab a drink. Let's hang out. All right. Now that I've done a 6-minute intro, Jesus, you can always speed these things up. I'm just saying. All right. So I am going to be talking about, well, I mean, I already told you kind of like what is going to be in the podcast, but what's going to be this episode. But I also wanted to mention specifically, so I said that there are different kinds of psychics, for one, because you can go to a psychic medium who will, specifically those kinds of sessions are for communicating with people who have passed, who have transitioned into their non-physical forms anymore. And then there are also psychics that you can go to like just for relationship advice, or psychics you can go to for tarot readings. There are all kinds of different psychics. And I wanted to specify that my particular psychic abilities when I'm doing a session tend to be claircognizance, clairsentience, and clairvoyance. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And they're in that order. I think it's really interesting how people's abilities or gifts, how they manifest, and then how they use them. And I wanted to talk about mine just to give you guys an idea in case you're interested in checking out a psychic session with me, or you're just wondering how psychic sessions work, because as I will probably say again later, it's so important if you are going to get a reading from somebody, whether it's an Akashic Records reading, a psychic session, a mediumship reading, it's so important for you to resonate with that person's energy, for you to be drawn to that person. So just putting that out there. So I will never force or reach out to anybody to give them a reading. I need to do an episode about scammers because I have some stories about getting scammed. Oh, the embarrassment. I'm not embarrassed. Okay. So psychic readings. I feel like so I'm going to start off with just understanding psychic readings. I feel like one of the I want to say trope, but one of the stereotypes of like psychics is the gypsy lady with the bandana on reading, a crystal ball and tarot cards. And while that is definitely one way that it can look so many other different ways. Like psychics and psychic sessions come in so many shapes and forms and colors. Like, it's such a wide range. So it's something that you should just follow your heart with, listen to your intuition, because there are so many options. And the kind of information that you will get from different people will also vary. So take your time. Don't rush into it when you're choosing a psychic to get a reading from, or maybe you're doing a reading for yourself, in which case choosing a psychic doesn't really matter because you're doing it for yourself. Okay, so there are, like I said, a whole bunch of different methods that psychics can use: tarot cards, astrology, mediumship, palmistry, like reading palms, numerology. You can do human design readings, can also have a psychic component. There's so many modalities. And then I also want to highlight that psychic readings are inherently subjective experiences. And that also applies to the forms and types of guidance that you're going to get from a psychic reading. So psychic readings basically offer you a personalized lens for you to get insights into your life and be able to make decisions and deal with uncertainties. So like if you're trying to decide which path to take, which person to date. And psychic sessions rely on intuitive abilities and the interpretations of the specific psychic that you're working with. And that's why it's so important to get a reading from somebody you're drawn to. So when you resonate with somebody's energy, it's like, you'll actually have the thought like, oh my gosh, I need to get a reading from them. That's what happens to me. I have that thought. Like, oh my gosh, this person's energy is the bee's knees. I want some of that. I want some of that energy. And it can also just feel like you being very interested in that person, really being drawn to their content. It can feel, you'll know. You'll have that intuition, that intuitive hit that like, okay, this is the person. Because I feel like sometimes we'll see psychics, and I see a lot of that on my feed, obviously. It's the kind of stuff that I look at. And there are some people where I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is cool. Like they'll be doing a live tarot reading or something. And I'm just like, oh, this is cool. And I'll listen to it. But then I'm not like, oh, I want to get a tarot reading from them. So just pay attention to who you're immediately drawn to. Like, oh my gosh, yes. And sometimes it can take time and you're not immediately drawn to that person. They have to keep showing up on your feed or showing up in your life, or maybe one day, months from now, you'll just suddenly be like, oh my gosh, I really like that one dude that was doing the whatever he was doing. And I think I'm going to reach out and see if he's available. So I always say, like, don't put limitations or don't let expectations create a ceiling for you that limit, your options or the possibilities. So try to be open-minded about it. And when should you get a reading? When you feel like it's time for you to. I love getting readings, and I will go through, because it's different when I do a reading for myself and then when I go to someone else, because I have my own blocks and unconscious programming and stuff. And sometimes when I'm trying to do a reading for myself, it's hard to remove my personal bias from the reading. And so it can be I can get a lot more clarity by going to somebody else, because then my junk isn't in the way. And yeah, I get the clarity of them interpreting through their lens, which is really cool. So there are months where I will just be like, I need a reading every single week. And then there'll be periods where I'm like, I'm good. I can get my own information. I don't need the validation from someone else. Or I just don't feel like I need a reading. So it's just really based on how you're feeling. I've had people ask me like, can I get a reading, with you every week, or once a month? And yeah, if you feel drawn or pulled to do that, then absolutely. There's no limit on how many readings you should get. I do try to empower people always, like not to be dependent on me to help them make decisions or help them get clarity. I really, really, I like to emphasize that when you get a reading, it's almost like, if you're not already in contact with your spirit guides, your higher self, and you're not already facilitating that communication personally, I really deeply feel like getting a reading from someone who is legit, first of all, because there are a lot of scammers out there. But when you get a reading, it's almost like, oh, Fish's food just dropped. She emerged from her blanket cave on the sofa where I'm sitting and just like popped her head up like a groundhog, and then looked around and ran to her food. It was really cute. Anyway, Sorry about that distraction and the background noise. So, crap. What was I saying? Shoot. When you get a reading so how do you know when to get a reading? Yeah, when you feel like getting a reading. Apparently I was rambling and I needed to stop and life let me know. Okay, so you will know when you need to get a reading. If you feel like doing it, go ahead. Oh, I try to empower people not to be dependent on me. So I feel like readings can really help you to tap in because it's just the energetics of a session when you're getting a reading. Hold that container for like high vibrational energy. Once you get a reading and that person is really tapped into your energy, able to connect with your guides, your higher self, it's almost like it facilitates this bridge for you to, so one of the things that can happen during a reading is healing and expansion, like for you. And so it can make it easier for you to remember your own connection. And so I always encourage people to, do that for themselves. But like I said, I like to get readings. So if you want to learn to do it for yourself and then also still get readings just for the validation of like, you did your own reading, you got information, and then you go to somebody else and they're like, yeah, this is what I got. And it's the same thing. That always feels really cool. So yes, get a reading when you want to get a reading. There are no rules. And same thing for like how often. Okay. Whenever you feel like it, honestly. Now, I want to get into the clairsenses that I use to do my psychic readings. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is claircognizance. And I'm going to talk about that one first because I feel like, honestly, well, I don't know. I feel like Jesus. Do I need another sip of water? I feel like claircognizance and clairsentience tend to kick in really, really strongly for me immediately. Like they're my defaults. And actually, usually clairsentience is the way that I'll get into it. But I'm going to talk about claircognizance first because it is one of my strongest abilities. And I say that, and it was probably the hardest one for me to begin to trust. I had to really practice a lot with with myself, channeling and creating a practice of just paying attention to my intuition and like the downloads that I was getting, because it's in my voice and it's so immediate that I had to practice to be able to pick up on when it was happening and when it was just me like talking, like my imagination. So claircognizance it's a tricky one as far as I'm concerned, because it's the nuances are so intricate for claircognizance, because I feel like clairvoyance, like you see images, you see things, or you don't. For claircognizance, it's just like thoughts get put into your head in like this stream of consciousness. It's really interesting. So anyway, I'll get into that. Claircognizance is clear knowing. It's where you just know things, which is kind of like a download. You just suddenly have all this information in your head. So I want to share some examples of how claircognizant abilities can be experienced, and I want to give some ways that it can happen, what it kind of looks like. And it's essentially like sudden insights or knowledge without any like logical explanation, kind of like an intuitive flash. Like all of a sudden you're just like able to say stuff and you don't know where it's coming from. So like if you've ever been talking to a friend and then you give them some advice and they're like, damn. And you're like, damn, that was probably claircognizance, where you're just like, where did that little wisdom nugget come from? Claircognizance. It's the universe inserting stuff into your consciousness. It could also just be you, and you could be a secret genius. So I'm not trivializing your genius, but I'm just saying it could also be claircognizance. So spontaneous understanding is another one. So if you have this like super fast comprehension of like a situation or a problem or a decision, and it seemingly like comes out of nowhere, then that can also be claircognizance. It can be like insights into your own life or the lives of others. And that can kind of happen with me. So during a psychic reading, if somebody, you don't really have to ask a question. You can just come in and it can be a blind general reading where I just start going based on what I'm feeling. And other times you can ask a question or tell me about a situation, and then it's like something clicks into place and suddenly I can start channeling information about that situation for clarity. It's so interesting. It's just an interesting phenomenon. I'm still like, what? How is this? It can be a bit off-putting because it's hard to explain, but that's how spiritual psychic stuff goes. Like, there's not supposed to be this explanation. It's not based in logic. It's based in magic. No, I'm kidding. It's not based in magic. Okay, or maybe it is. I don't know. Now I'm gonna ramble. Okay, so the next way that claircognizance can manifest is foreknowledge. So that's kind of like where it's almost like you can predict future events or outcomes before they happen, which I indicated by saying future. But anyway, so it can almost kind of be like this strong sense of certainty about a particular direction or choice. Like, yeah, if you quit your job, this is what's going to happen. Or, yeah, if you continue to stay in this relationship, this is what may happen, or these are some things that could happen depending on blah, blah, and blah. So that's what foreknowledge looks like. Another way that claircognizance can present is through problem solving. So you can have a lot of like, if you're claircognizant, you'll have a lot of insights during like problem solving moments. So you'll suddenly be able to understand like a solution or understand the root cause of a problem without going by this like step-by-step process. So often when you're problem solving, you tend to take it from like, there's a process, there are steps, there's a beginning and an end and a middle. And when you're claircognizantly problem solving, you can just go from the beginning, like this is the problem, to immediately having the solution without having to do this like step-by-step process. Another thing that happens with claircognizance is like aha moments, where you'll have this like profound understanding. I just hit my phone with my hand because I talk with my hands. Jesus. You'll have this like profound understanding or revelation that like just suddenly comes to you out of nowhere, and it gives you a bunch of clarity. I have a bunch of aha moments. It's the weirdest thing. It feels so good. I love it. Immediate certainty is another one. That's where you'll just have like this unwavering certainty. And it's different from like gradually developing an idea or thought process through like conscious reasoning. It's more like you're so sure about something without having any reasoning behind it. Immediate certainty. Like, this information is 100% true. I know it for sure. That's immediate certainty. And it's almost like it's like you have this information that's just implanted directly into your consciousness. I don't like that I used the word implanted. That did not feel nice to me. I would like to go back and switch that word and just say having information delivered directly to your consciousness, because that seems a lot less gross feeling. So yeah, immediate certainty. That happens a lot during psychic readings for me too. Honestly, I'm really just talking about a lot of the stuff that I do. So yeah, there are a ton of other things I could list, but I don't want this to be a 4-hour podcast. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Or episode. Why do I keep saying podcast? I mean episode. So inspiration, creativity is the last thing I'm going to talk about for claircognizance. And it's basically associated with creative endeavors. So I paint and draw and do artistic things, and I will just get this sudden inspiration, or like a picture will pop into my head out of nowhere, and I'm like, I have to paint this. There'll be very specific colors and shapes and dimensions, and it's like I have this insatiable pull to go and get out art supplies and immediately put it on to canvas or paper. a lot of artists, writers, innovators have attributed these sudden bursts of inspiration or like innovative ideas to their claircognizant abilities. I think that Albert Einstein is one of them. I think Tesla also has spoken about that. So it's super interesting. If you ever get like super inspired and creative, that can be claircognizance. Whew. Alrighty, let's get into how, oh, well, I already did that. I'm not going to do that again. So through claircognizance, I know I said I was wrapping it up, but I'm going to do a little bit more of a wrap up. So claircognizance can basically offer you guidance. I mean, through claircognizance, that's what allows me during a reading, like having the things just delivered to my consciousness. The impressions that I get can be related to events or relationships, decisions that you're going through. They can be about your past, your present, your future. They can validate information that you've already received through your own abilities. And I also want to mention that claircognizance can also validate information that I'm receiving through my other senses. So like it can validate clairvoyance or clairsentience. And I'm going to kind of get into that because when I start a reading, I start it off by feeling into my body and I connect with the client's energy field, and then I feel into my body because the physical sensations that I get lead me to what I'm going to talk about first. And then as I'm explaining those physical sensations, that's when, the physical sensations are clairsentience, it's clear feeling. So that's how I'm reading the energy, is physically with my own body. And then as I'm explaining what I'm experiencing, it opens up my claircognizance and clairvoyance. And then I will start to see images that support and further explain or give me more and different information about the insights that I'm getting. So it's really cool how all of your gifts or abilities will work together synergistically. Yeah. Synergy. They're all intertwined. It's really cool. So they all support each other. Whew. Okay, let's get into clairsentience. So clairsentience is another one of my really dominant gifts. I feel like clairsentience is one of the more common clairs that people will experience and just don't realize it. Like so many people have gut feelings or can pay attention to the feelings and sensations in their body for like their intuition. And that's clairsentience. It's a heightened sensitivity to sensations of others, energies, and emotions. And it can help you to perceive or interpret like subtle feelings and vibrations that may not always be immediately apparent to other people or your other senses. So I might not be able to see something happening out of place, or I might not be able to see something wrong, but I can walk into a room and be like, oh, the energy in here is not it. Like, this isn't it. So it's almost like it just gives you this ability to sense stuff physically with your body. Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about how people who have clairsentient abilities are able to pick up on emotions, energy, and sensations from others, and kind of how this manifests during psychic readings for me. So when you have clairsentience, you have this empathic connection to other people where you can kind of like feel and absorb their emotions. So it's really important to have good boundaries and to be aware of your ability to do this, because for so long in my life, I didn't know that's what I did. And so I would have a really hard time being around certain people or in certain situations because I was openly absorbing everything. And I was constantly anxious and overwhelmed and drained and tired and exhausted and stressed. And I always thought it was just me, but some of it was from me, but some of it was also me picking up on energies around me and connecting with people's energies and not knowing that I was doing it. And I think that happens with a lot of people. A lot of people will give off energy and just be unaware that they're doing it, and absorb energy and not be aware of it. So you're just as responsible for what you're putting out as what you're absorbing. So you may be able to sense, like, I can often sense if somebody's feeling good, if they're feeling stressed, if they've got some shit happening in their lives where like they're having an issue with one of their parents, or they're having an issue in a relationship, or they're struggling with something, I can like, it's like I can feel it, and I'll feel it in my body somewhere, like in a body part, or I'll feel it in my chakras. It's really interesting, and it can be really intense. Like sometimes it can be really intense. So yeah, you can sense joy, sadness, you can sense anxiety, and all kinds of other emotional states just coming from a person or from their vicinity, like the area they're in. And that's why it's so important when you're getting a psychic reading or any kind of reading where somebody's going to be reading your energy or connecting or tapping in to deliver insights. It's so important for you to have privacy and quiet, because when I'm tapping into your energy, I'm tapping into the energy you're emitting, and then I'm also tapping into the energy around you. So like if you're at a party and there are a ton of people around you, it's harder. I don't want to say harder, but I will pick up on all of that. Anyone who's around you, I'm also picking up on their energy field, and then how your energy field is interacting with their energy field. And so if you want the most clarity and the most accuracy from your reading, it's really important for you to be alone so that just your energy can be read. And it's also important for you to be somewhere where you feel secure and like you're not going to be interrupted, so that you can kind of like calm and relax and be receptive. And then also not to be somewhere where you're going to be distracted. So like if you're sitting in a room and a kid's going to come running in and like jumping all on you, because that's going to change your energy in that moment. And when I'm reading your energy in that moment, that's what's helping me to extrapolate future probabilities and past influences and all kinds of stuff. So if your energy is fluctuating or you have other influences on your energy at that time, it's going to skew the energy that I'm reading, because that's all I'm doing is just picking up on subtle energies and then interpreting them. I've done readings for people before where they were in a room and there were kids in there and there were other adults in there, and it takes extra focus and concentration from me because I kind of have to sift through all of that. It's almost like if you're blindfolded and you stick your hand into a box of toys and you're looking for one toy. Imagine how much harder it is to like how much more focus, I don't want to say harder, but how much more focus you have to give, how much more you have to concentrate in order to really feel the shape that you're looking for, as opposed to just picking a toy up off of a table. How much easier is it to be like, oh, this is the toy that I'm looking for. There's only one toy here. Cool. Rather than sifting through 50 toys in a box. That's kind of how it is. So it's not impossible. It's just a little more effort. So if you're clairsentient, you may also experience physical sensations that line up with emotions that like they correspond to emotions or conditions of other people. So it might feel like tingling or warmth or chills or other bodily sensations. And those sensations are what give you insight into the emotional or physical state of somebody. So I will often get like, I say goosebumps, but it's like this tingly feeling, or I get like warmth. That's how I know that I'm tapped in. When I'm preparing for a session and I'm tapping into somebody's energy field, or I'm preparing to access the Akashic records, when I am tapped in, I feel like I get this, it's like I get this wave of warmth that travels over my body. It's like a wave. You can feel it moving, or I can feel it moving through me. It's like, I almost want to describe it as like this glittery, effervescent, warm hug endorphin feeling. And it's like I'm floating on cloud nine. It just feels like love and marshmallow fluff. Like, it feels really nice. So that's like a clairsentient sensation that you can experience. You can also get chills as like a no feeling, like a ugh, like an ick feeling. That's also a sensation. If you've ever met somebody and you get like the ugh, that kind of feeling where you're just like, I need to create more space between us. That is also a clairsentient feeling. You're sensing the energy and it's repelling you. Okay. And depending on the kind of sensation that I get, that it means something. So if I get a sharp pain, that usually indicates that there's a block or there's some trauma there. There's something heavier. It's a heavier emotion that I'm interpreting. Whereas a warm or tingly feeling is usually a positive indicator. So you can also pick up on energetic imprints that are left behind in a specific like location or by objects. It's almost like psychometry, which I will talk about in a little bit also. But basically by like touching or just being in close proximity to a thing, an object, a place, it's almost like you can sense like residual emotions or energies that are associated with past events or people that had to do with that thing or the place. Super interesting. That happens. That doesn't usually happen to me during readings, but that can happen when I go to a specific place. If I go to somebody's house, I will get a certain feeling about the energy there. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I've got to go. I suddenly feel like I have something somewhere else I need to be. That's kind of what that feels like. You can also, if you're clairsentient, you can also perceive subtle energy fields or auras surrounding people. So that kind of goes back to like if you meet somebody and you're like, oh, no, not today. Or if you meet somebody and have you ever been in a situation where you meet this stranger or like you ask a cashier at a store? This happens to me all the time. I will be out shopping and you know how you do the not obligatory, but you do the like polite, like, oh yeah, how are you doing? How's your day? And sometimes people just get real with me and I'm like, oh shit, did not expect you to tell me your whole life story, but I'm here for it. I'm holding space for you. Like, let me know how you're doing. Like I do care when I ask people like, how are you doing? But I'm always surprised when people actually let me know and give me all these details about their life. And it's almost like when that happens, the reason that I'm okay with it and I'm like, tell me, like, go ahead, tell me more. Let's go. Let's get into this is because it's like you could feel the energy coming off of them. Like they need that outlet. You can feel the frazzled, denser, thicker energy that's around them. And it's almost like as they let it out, it dissipates a little, it lightens because they're expressing that, the crap that they're holding on to, and that expression allows them to kind of process it. It's really interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon. So anyway, you can perceive subtle energy fields or auras around people. And if you're clairsentient and you're perceiving those things, it's a feeling. If you're clairvoyant and you have clear seeing and you get visions and stuff, you may be able to actually see auras around people. But for clairsentience, it's something that you can feel. Clairsentience is also associated with intuitive knowing. It just manifests differently. So you can know about somebody's emotions or the intentions of others because you'll get this like immediate deep understanding of their emotions or how they're feeling in a given situation. And you'll be able to just kind of like, you'll understand the whole situation just by being able to pick up on their emotions that they haven't even outwardly or explicitly expressed. And that happens to me during readings a lot, where it's like as soon as you pick up on that person's emotion, it opens this doorway to where that emotion came from, how it's happening, why it's happening, like everything surrounding that emotion that they're feeling without them having to say anything about it. It's so interesting. An example of this is like, if I start a reading for somebody, I'm feeling into their energy fields, they haven't asked me any questions, and then I get like a pain, in my neck or my shoulder. And it's not always the same thing. Sometimes it's about having too much responsibility on their shoulders. Sometimes it's because they're worried about one of their parents and their parent is ill and they've felt this, hyper responsibility to take care of them. And so it's like this, I don't want to say burden, but it's like they just feel all this pressure. And I get all of that, all of the like dense emotions, the whole emotional landscape, just by tuning into a feeling that I'm getting from somebody's emotion that I felt. It's really interesting. You can also get information about a person or an event by holding an object associated with them. I don't do that because I do all of my readings online, so I don't ever actually like touch anybody or their stuff, but you can. So if you're ever in a store, I love going out and just touching stuff in stores, and I never even thought about it until just now and talking about that. That's so cool. Like, well, it's not cool, but I find that interesting. I really like touching things. I'm the person in the store where if there's a pillow or a blanket, I touch it. Or a piece of clothing, I touch it. Because if it's not soft, I don't want it. Don't give me that scratchy shirt. No, thank you. So yeah. By touching an item, you can pick up on emotions, memories, or energetic imprints related to that object's history. So again, does not apply to me during psychic readings, but in life, if you're clairsentient, that is something you can do. And that is a form of psychometry. I think it's called psychometry. That feels like how you say it. So the last thing I'm going to mention for clairsentience is that clairsentient people can also use their abilities for healing. So often if you are predisposed to clairsentience, you will be drawn to Reiki, or you could be really, really good at Reiki. So you can use your clairsentience to sense and understand the emotional or energetic imbalances of others. And by doing that, you're able to offer support and comfort and guidance. And through that, you can alleviate some of their emotional burdens. So I do that during Reiki, and then I use that for while I'm practicing Reiki on someone or myself. And I also will do that during a reading. Being able to sense and understand somebody's emotions or their energetic imbalances, I will usually be able to feel which chakras are the most important, because your spiritual team, your higher self, is not going to give you so much that you're paralyzed. They will give you the most important thing for you right now. And so usually when I'm picking up on energetic imbalances, I'll feel it in one or two of your main chakras that you are needing to focus on. And then I'll kind of expand from there. And usually I'll get insights about how you can work with it, how you can heal. And some of that healing can actually happen during the session just by acknowledging that there's an imbalance or a block. So that is one of my favorite parts of sessions. I think that's always really cool. And by doing that, it can create immediate shifts for people just by acknowledging something that they weren't aware of, like a deeper layer of an emotion they were feeling, or some trauma, or a block, or something that was repressed. Just by acknowledging it, it can start the healing process and already open up and allow some of that stagnant energy to move. Because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we just ignore or we're not aware of. So clairsentience can really help to feel into your body and allow you to kind of feel into other people's energy fields. And it essentially is like feeling into their bodies, because your body is your body is your physical energy. Okay. So I also all right. I want to go ahead and go into clairvoyance. So clairvoyance is clear seeing. So that's where you receive information through visions or symbols or images, and it's stuff that's not perceived by your ordinary human senses. So you're not usually seeing the visions with your physical human eyes and your face. It's like these pictures or scenes or like movie scenes that'll pop into your mind's eye. So think of your third eye for clairvoyance. You'll think of a symbol, or you'll have a thought that pops into your head, and it's a very visual thing. Clairvoyance is more visual, whereas claircognizance is where you'll have a thought that pops into your head. Okay, so for clairvoyance, you can receive information through visions, symbols, images. And now I want to talk about clairvoyance in psychic readings and how it helps you to get potential insights into the past, the present, or future events. So you can receive symbolic images. So there's always deep symbolism rooted in these things. And I have certain images that I know if I see a certain thing, it means this. So if I see a door opening, that's usually a new opportunity or a new path that's been revealed. Or if we're talking about something specific and I see a door opening, that means, yes, this is the way to go. This is the thing. And so those kind of symbolic images can convey information about the person's life, about specific events, emotions, or people. And the interpretation of the images kind of creates the basis for the insights that are provided during that reading. So I'll see an image, I'll start explaining the symbolism of the image and interpreting it, and then I will see whatever feelings are coming up, or my claircognizance will usually kick in then, and then I'll get this stream of information that I'll start saying to the person about it, and it just kind of takes off from there and creates this momentum. You can also get visions of past life influences. You can so I'll usually see, when it's a past life thing, I will usually see visions of the past life, which I think is super interesting because I get a lot of claircognizant intuitive insights and stuff. But for clairvoyance, my clairvoyance usually kicks in for past life stuff, which is really cool because I like seeing the things. So you can visualize relationships, challenges, a snapshot into the person's present circumstances. You can also see present day or future things with clairvoyance and visions. Visions or images can also offer glimpses into potential future outcomes. So like different choices the person wants to make. You can, if they're like, I don't know if I should quit my job or if I should do this, you can see what that situation will look like depending on which choice the person makes. So that's another way that it can manifest. You can also use clairvoyance for dream analysis. I don't think I've ever had a reading where I did dream analysis, but I've had readings with psychics who do dream analysis, and I love it. It's really cool because often I'm so focused on what happened in my dream that it's harder for me to get insight into the symbolism behind it. So that's always really cool. And it can provide additional layers of insight into like your subconscious and potential future developments just from the symbolism in your dream. You can also get guidance from spiritual entities or guides and visualize images that represent messages or advice from them. And that can help with spiritual insights also. So that usually happens during mediumship readings for me. Sometimes I can actually see the person. Sometimes I can't. It's just energy that I'm reading and I can pick up little details, but sometimes I can actually see the person, which is always really cool for me. And I would like to say that it's cool for the person I'm reading for. Visualizing dynamics of relationships in the past and in the present is another way that clairvoyance can manifest during a reading. And that can be insights into emotions, intentions of one or both of the people in the relationship or a family dynamic, and also potential future developments within personal and romantic relationships. That's another thing that you can have visions of and see and get symbols and just visual insights, basically. And again, like I mentioned before, you could see energy fields or auras surrounding people that can give you insight into their emotional state or blocks that they may have. And another way that clairvoyance is used during psychic readings is tarot cards. When people are reading tarot cards, they're using their ability to visualize and interpret the symbols and the imagery on the cards. And that enhances their capacity, basically, to give more details. And sometimes that sparks like claircognizance. So when I'm reading cards for somebody, I do that. I look at the images, I look at the colors, I look at the symbols. And then by acknowledging that or whatever I'm drawn to first, that means something. And then I'll get claircognizance. And it's like this stream of consciousness just comes through and I'm able to start talking about or talking to whatever point is needing to come through for the client at that time. It's super interesting. All right. So now that I went over the 3 clairsenses that I predominantly use during psychic readings and that a lot of people use. So claircognizance, which is clear knowing, clairsentience, which is clear feeling, and then clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. Now I want to talk about tapping in to the client's energy field. So when you're tapping into somebody's energy field, it allows you to perceive or interpret or connect with their energy. And that connection is how you're able to gain insights and give them personalized guidance for them, because everybody has a unique energy signature. And that field, that energetic field, contains information about that person's emotions, about their thoughts, about their overall well-being, things that are impacting their life, other energies that they're holding on to from people in their lives. And that's how you can read like relationship and family dynamics also. You can also experience physical sensations or changes in that person's energy when you're connected in. And it'll feel like changes in your own energy. So when you're doing a reading, it's really important to, I do this thing before a reading where I kind of set myself aside so that my biases and stuff aren't coming through. And so that I'm really just focused on what the other person is feeling and interpreting the sensations I feel as that person's. There's a lot of preparation that goes into doing that. And, attuning to the emotional resonance. So when I'm tapping into somebody's energy field, I'm tapping into the vibration that their energy is emitted, because everybody has this resonance that's embedded in their energy field. And by feeling into that or absorbing it, it's like I step into your energy field, and that's how I can feel and experience your emotions. And it's almost like it allows me to gain like this deeper understanding through empathy of your emotional state or your concerns, your joys, your worries, your stress. It's almost like I'm also experiencing it. And, tapping into your energy field is also, that's how I can get like a holistic understanding of you and your life. And it helps me to figure out which information to give you, because sometimes I pick up on a ton of stuff, but not all of it is important for you in that moment. Sometimes I'm about to say stuff to people and I get this hit where it's like, no, you don't need to go into that so deeply. And so all of that is coming from your energy field. All right. So I also wanted to, so before I connect with somebody's energy, I always make sure that I calm myself. I become neutral, like as neutral as possible, and I raise my vibration. And then that creates this resonance that allows me to be able to go into your energy field consciously. And I set intentions for connection and to make sure that I'm only, connecting in for your highest good, and I'm only channeling the highest vibration of love and light so that it's helpful guidance you're getting and nothing that's going to bombard you or overwhelm you or stress you out or cause harm. And then I open myself up to your energy because, like I said, there are boundaries when it comes to psychic abilities. And so I don't always walk around just open, feeling everybody's stuff. That is not fun. So when I'm doing a reading, I set the intention like, okay, I'm opening myself up. I have a very sacred space that I will do readings in because of that. Like when I'm opened up, I don't want to be around anything that's not supporting what I'm doing. All right. So we're about to wrap this up. Cool. Okay. So energetic considerations for ethical. So ethical considerations, not energetic. It's always important to, I already talked about the boundaries, respecting people's privacy. So I'm not like rooting into all of your deep, dark secrets. I don't get all of that information. I only get insights about what's important for you in that moment. I think sometimes people can be nervous about getting a reading because they're like, I don't want this person to know about all of my deep, dark secrets and skeletons in my closet or these things. I don't want her to know I'm cheating on my person. Like, I will not get information that's not going to help you. I only will, and that's the intention that I set. I'm just channeling information that's going to help you and support you and empower you. I'm not going to get all the extra stuff that is not necessary for me to know. I think that's so, so important. And another thing is that, like I said, I'm there to provide empowering insights that are presented in a way that empowers you to make informed decisions and take control of your life. I think some people can be put off by psychic readings because there's not scientific evidence, but that's the whole point. Like, there is science, like, that explains psychic stuff. Like, we have quantum physics now, and metaphysics and all of that stuff. And I just don't feel like the level of science that most people are aware of will explain psychic stuff. And so I think that creates a lot of skepticism. And a lot of it is largely belief and receptivity. Like, when you go into a psychic reading, you know that you're ready and it's time to get a psychic reading when you're ready to be receptive and open to whatever it is you need to receive. You are going into this reading with a growth mindset. You're ready for the information so that you can use it to better your life, to better yourself, for the growth that you're here for. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for coming along on this journey with me. I love talking about this stuff, so it means so much that you tuned in and wanted to listen to me talking, that you wanted to have this conversation with me, because it really was a conversation. I just couldn't hear you contributing. You know what I mean? So if you have questions, I would love for you to reach out. Let me know what your questions are. If you have ideas for stuff that you'd like to hear, or you have, questions about experiences you've had, like, reach out. I want to hear about all those things. They might give me ideas for podcasts. I might have you on a podcast to talk about something that would be super cool. So let me know what you thought about the episode. I'm so excited about all the ideas I have for more episodes coming up, so stay tuned. I'm going to be talking about body mapping. So, like, if you are clairsentient and you feel things in different parts of your body, what that means. So that can help to empower you to do kind of your own readings for yourself. I'm so excited about all the things that are coming. So if you are interested in getting a reading from me, I do Akashic readings and psychic readings, and they are all available on my website. You can book directly from my calendar. If you have questions, you can reach out to me on TikTok or Instagram. My handle is @spiritualitywithashley. And I also have a YouTube channel, but I don't have anything up yet. So easiest way to get in touch with me is through my social media, or you can also email me at support@ashleybrickhouse.com. And my website is ashleybrickhouse.com. All right. Again, thank you. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, night, morning, whatever it is. All right. Talk soon.